construction foreman in Philadelphia was hired to repair the roof of a cathedral built 30 years earlier. His crew removed sections of the stone facade to access the interior framework. What they found was not wood or iron beams. It was a lattice of interlocking stone arches, each one supporting the next in a sequence so precise that removing a single piece would require calculating the load distribution across the entire structure. The foreman wrote in his report that no modern engineer he consulted could explain how the original builders had assembled it without collapse. He also noted that there were no construction records, no blueprints, no plans archived with the city. The official history states the cathedral was designed by a local architect and built by immigrant stonemasons over a period of 8 years. That would account for the labor. It does not account for the mathematics required to balance a dome that weighs 400 tons on walls with no visible foundation reinforcement. It does not explain how stonemasons, many of whom could not read or write, executed acoustics so advanced that a whisper at the altar can be heard clearly 150 feet away. What it also does not explain is why similar buildings, with nearly identical structural features, appear across 3 continents, all completed within the same 40-year window. The dimensions are not symbolic. The ceilings in these cathedrals reach heights of 60 to 90 feet, yet the windows are placed as if meant to illuminate something much taller than a human congregation. The doorways are often 12 to 15 feet high, with handles positioned at 8 feet. The pews, when original ones still exist, are built with backrests that suggest users significantly taller than average. None of this is mentioned in the architectural literature. Once you notice it in Philadelphia, it appears in Prague, then in Kazan, then in San Francisco. Stone structures with the same proportions, the same impossibly thin walls supporting massive weight, the same lack of documented engineering process. All labeled as products of local craftsmanship. All built during a period when steel frame construction had not yet been standardized, and when most cities did not have centralized engineering departments. There is a record buried in the archives of the Library of Congress, a surveyor's note from 1876 describing a partially collapsed building in Ohio. The surveyor referred to it as a Tartarian hall, a term that appears in fewer than a dozen documents from that era and is never explained. He noted that the remaining structure showed evidence of advanced ventilation channels embedded in the walls, designed to regulate temperature without external heating. The report was filed under miscellaneous observations and has not been referenced in any historical survey since. In the 1890s, a civil engineering journal published in London included a brief entry questioning the origin of certain cathedrals across Europe. The author pointed out that construction timelines, when cross-referenced with population records and available labor forces, did not align. A cathedral listed as taking 12 years to build would have required a workforce 3 times larger than the town's entire male population. The journal ceased publication in 1897. No follow-up articles were printed. There are also the photographs. In archives across Russia and Central Europe, there are images from the 1860s and 1870s showing cities filled with these structures, many of them already in a state of disrepair. The photographs suggest the buildings were not newly constructed during that time, but inherited. Some show partial demolitions, with crews removing debris rather than assembling materials. City records from the same period describe reclamation projects and urban reorganization, but they do not say what was being reclaimed or from whom. By 1900, the architectural language had shifted. New civic buildings were shorter, simpler, built with standard materials and well-documented methods. The older structures were either renovated to remove their unusual features, or they were demolished entirely. In some cases, they were buried. There is a cathedral foundation in Kiev that was filled with rubble and paved over in 1903. It still exists beneath a public square. So the question is not whether these buildings were constructed by local populations. The question is why no one at the time thought it necessary to document how. Not a single set of plans survives for most of these structures. Not a single engineering manual references the techniques used. There are invoices for materials, payroll logs for workers, and dedication ceremonies. But there is no record of the knowledge required to make any of it stand. And then that knowledge disappears. Not gradually over generations, but within a span of 20 years. By 1920, architectural schools were teaching methods that specifically avoided the structural techniques visible in these older buildings. When asked why, the response was that those techniques were unstable or unsafe. But the buildings themselves, the ones still standing, suggest otherwise. Many have survived earthquakes that destroyed everything around them. There are no master builders named in connection with these projects. No architects celebrated for solving impossible problems. No guilds or schools that claimed credit. It is as if the buildings appeared, fully realized, and then the people who understood them vanished. If they were built by a previous civilization, where did that civilization go? If they were built by the same populations that occupied the cities in the 1800s, why is there no continuity of technique? Why would a society capable of engineering these structures suddenly stop and begin building in a completely different way? You start to notice that the break happens right around the same time that maps are redrawn. That city records are updated. That old terms, like Tartary, stop appearing in atlases and are replaced with new borders and new names. And you start to wonder what else was renamed, what else was covered, and whether the buildings we call cathedrals were ever meant to be churches at all. If this caught your attention, there's more to examine. Consider subscribing or leaving a thought below. Most of what we think we know about these places comes from the people who renamed them,